Welcome to South Minneapolis for the 2016 Minnesota State Crit Championship. As you can see, it's a 6-corner crit. It's a slight uphill into turn 1 followed by a downhill. Relatively technical, going through a neighborhood and streaming down Chicago Avenue. My name is Brady Prenzlow. I've got 2 teammates in the race today, so we'll try to work together the best we can. There are approximately 30, 35 plus, and another 20 or so 50 plus racers, so the field is roughly 50 riders strong. And we are off. The funny thing the promoter did was started the 35 plus racers 10 seconds before the 50 plus racers. And we knew that was going to be an issue, as one of us was going to catch the other group, as we will see here shortly. So we are off in our 50-minute race. Like I said, there's about 30 of us in the 35 plus category racing for bragging rights and a jersey as the Minnesota Crit Old Dude Champion. We got Chad Wisegram, who we're keeping an eye on. The 2 Vision riders, Matt Myers and Chad, were probably the biggest threats. So Laszlo, Ben, and I had some loose plans, but really those loose plans were, hey Chad, that Laszlo was going to keep an eye on Chad, and I was going to keep an eye on Matt. Since Laszlo won it last year, he was gracious enough to say, hey, Prenzlow, you want to win it this year? And I said, I'll give it a try. Knowing that Matt was from Minnesota and Chad is not, we thought Matt would be the best bet to keep an eye on. So that's my plan. However, right now I am following Brian Koneman. That's never a bad wheel to follow, as he puts out a pretty good draft and rides a nice predictable line. So coming across turn 6 here into the straightaway, I've got my teammate up front, Ben Schinke, leading the way. It is a slight tailwind here into the finish. Chad's on my wheel currently as we are about to cross the start-finish line. Andy Cruz takes off. Andy now lives in Colorado. Used to be a resident here. He actually used to be on our team for a year. Realize that he can sprint and is relatively strong, although I have not raced against him this year as he is just in town for the weekend, so I have no idea what his fitness is right now. But he is leading the charge. I'm staying on Brian's wheel. Not putting my nose out in the wind too early here. Jay Hollywood Henderson on my wheel as things are strung out, as Andy's pushing the pace now, 28, 29 miles an hour. Again, I have all my data down below. Heart rate, cadence, power, distance, duration. The map gets a little funky at times, but gives you some indication of where we are and the number of laps that we're doing. We're doing 29 laps, as it turns out today. Andy Fry, who joked that he was not going to grab my butt, and he couldn't resist. And he pushes me, and just about pushes me into Brian Koneman. That would have been bad. But he claims it's good luck. I've had success every time he's given me a nice little squeeze, so appreciate that, Andy. Nobody taken off here yet. However, as you can see, we've just been caught by the 50 plus field. So that 10 seconds evaporated in all of 2 laps. Now, if we follow the letter of the law, we should let the 50 plus riders go by us and race their own race. However, getting 30, 35 plus riders to go along with that during the middle of a race is something else. Jason Hinkle goes over the top. He's a 50 plus rider. Now again, we should just let him go. But of course that's not going to happen. So we all end up racing together, even though we are going to be scored separately. Cruising into this downhill. Really, this turn is probably the only turn that you, if you have a 175 millimeter crank, shouldn't pedal through. The roads are in decent enough shape, although I've been racing this race every year and they get a little worse each year. But but you know what to look out for at the very least. Laszlo and Chad on my wheel again. Laszlo's job was to keep an eye on Chad, and he is doing just that. I guess I'm not doing a very good job with my plan of keeping an eye on Matt, as I've just kind of been floating towards the front here, keeping an eye on everything. And now we've got about 50% 50 plus riders and 50% 35 plus riders here up at the front. Charlie Downsend riding and coaching for North Star Development Team right up above. Jeff Hilligos comes by, and there's my guy, Matt Myers. So seeing him in my peripheral, realizing that I'm going to go if he goes. There's Laszlo staying on Chad's wheel. Chad's putting in a little push, and Laszlo follows, as was the plan. We've got Derek Verta there, who is racing with Andy Cruz. I believe they both live in Colorado. I don't know Derek as well, although I know that he has been fast and fit at times. Not sure where he's at right now. So yeah, here's the plan. I am on Matt Myers' wheel. I figure he is the best guess at winning this race. So at the very least, I'm keeping an eye on him. I've got Ed over to the right of me wearing a Hollywood kit. I saw that exchange happen before the race. Ed wasn't really racing for anybody at the beginning of the season, wearing a nondescript kit. Hollywood said, Ed, you should ride for Hollywood. So he put on a skin suit and some crazy socks, and there we go. So on the fourth lap, 6.5 minutes in, this front stretch is always a little surgy as, again, it's a little bit of a tailwind cruising into the start-finish. Wanting to get some nice momentum going up this slight hill into turn 1. And this hill is pretty insignificant, unlike some crit courses where they might have a hill like this coming out of a turn. Most of the time you're hitting that turn at almost 30 miles an hour. So even though we do it almost 30 times, it's not all that taxing. Unlike Clear Lake, for example, where you come around a turn and you're looking at a hill like that, hitting you in the face, where you don't have the momentum going into it. I believe, again, this is the 6th year of the Southside Crit. I appreciate the fact that the neighborhood is starting to embrace it. People out on their lawns watching it. The Minneapolis police doing an awesome job. Again, thanking Jason Lairdy, who works tirelessly to get sponsors, organize it, and now the Southside Sprint is part of a larger omnium over the weekend called the Big Waters. They had a crit in Northeast on Saturday, some drag races on Friday night, and then finishing up again with Southside here on Sunday. So overall, even though it was wet yesterday, made for a nice weekend of racing, especially for those folks coming in out of town. All right, so I believe, who is up the road? Is that Derek Vert up the road? A couple of riders up the road, realizing that this could be the race here. Yes, that's Derek Vert in the middle, and I think that was Laszlo and Chad up the road. Burned one match to bridge up to them. Try not to bring the entire group with me, but the overall group caught us. So it looks like Ed was up there, Chad was up there, and I believe Laszlo is up there as well. So again, at the beginning of this race, there's a few brake attempts, but nothing gets away. I'm on Derek Verta's wheel from Training Peaks. Matt's on my wheel. Yes, that was Chad and Laszlo, and I'm not sure who that fourth rider is up there. There's an easing of the field as we've caught that small little break. I jump on Matt's wheel as this might be a good opportunity for him to counter. As we've just completed 6 of our 29 laps. BK's now is on my wheel. Matt gets up out of the saddle, and we got Chris Doyne over here on our left. I realize this could be a pretty strong move, so I make sure to get on this. And we have some separation from the field. So there are roughly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us, with Michelle from Moon State bridging up. We have a little distance. Now with only 7 laps in, how well are we willing to work? So Matt is up here trying to get some separation. I want to get up there to see if I can help him to keep this thing going. However, the funny thing is we look back, who's bringing this back is the 50 plus riders. I'm not sure if there's any 50 plus riders up with us or not. So Hollywood Rider comes over the top of Matt to see if he can keep the pace going, keep this gap going. I tell him to get going, don't look behind, just go, go, go. I come around him, again not killing myself, but putting out about 400 watts, 29 miles an hour. Hoping this slight gap becomes a little bigger and we can get away. Michelle comes over the top of me, and as you can see, we're still pretty much together here. Nobody's letting us get away, that's for sure. Michelle leads us down this downhill. And this definitely is a course where breaks succeed. The last several years, I've been sprinting for 4th or sprinting for 3rd. I think it's been about 4 years since we all finished as a group, and that was the year that Matt actually won it. I ran out of road, another few meters, and I would have caught him. But that was the last time that a full group had finished. The last several years, it has finished in a 2-man break or a 3-man break. So again, breakaways definitely can get away here. Once again, as you are out of sight, you're out of mind. Matt comes over the top again, realizing that there's no gap here. We're getting a little distance, just not enough. So now it's just the 3 of us, Matt, Michelle, and I, and Matt puts the hammer down. I bridge up to him. And this is a preem lap, so unfortunately, we have about 50 meters on the field, the 3 of us. But we realize that the field is going to be cooking this lap because it is a sprint lap. Matt looks behind, what's our gap? I try to pull through on this downhill and hit this downhill as fast as I feel comfortable, which is 29 miles an hour at this point. I keep pushing the pedals, hoping that this gap remains. However, realizing that at a preem lap, it's going to be even more difficult. And yes, here's the group. So a couple times we tried to get away. The 5 of us, the 3 of us, and it just didn't happen. However, with these last 2 break attempts, this is a pretty good opportunity for someone else to counter. I'm on the front, realizing that we're caught, pulling over. There goes Chad. Going for the preem, or is he going for a break? Laszlo's doing his job. Keep it on Chad. There's another Chad Macy, riding for donkey label, bridges up. So you see Chad, Laszlo, and then the second Chad going into this preem lap. And we're on lap 9. And Matt's gassed because he just pulled. And Chad won the preem. However, the 3 of them are up the road. And because Chad is Matt's teammate and Laszlo is my teammate, we're not going to chase. We're going to leave that up to other teams. And I'm just going to sit on this freewheel rider. I believe this is Matt Bosman, who I don't know, although he rode strong all morning. So again, we've got a strung out peloton with Chad, Laszlo, and Chad up the road. And a number of these teams, I believe, this is Dominic Howes, possibly from Loon State, trying to bridge across. Got Ed El Paso here in my rear, followed by his teammate Hollywood Henderson. And nothing is really getting organized to pull the 3 riders back. Jay realizes, Jay's seen this move before, he's going to get to the front and see what he can do to pull the 3-man breakaway back. You see Michelle get on Jay's wheel. We're 10 laps in. Can the break of 3 stay away for 19 more laps? We will see. And again, at this point, realizing that I have a teammate up the road, I'm trying to conserve energy so that if we do catch them, then I'll have enough legs to counter if needed. Realizing that this freewheel rider is pretty banged up, and at this point I'm thinking, did he crash at some point in this race? As there's some road rash marks on his leg and his arm, but I'm guessing that probably happened in yesterday's rain race. So we're pushing it. The 3-rider break must really be crushing it because we're averaging, we're bouncing around here on the backside and the turns, but anywhere from 26, 27, 28, maybe even 29 miles an hour. We've still got the 50-plus riders sprinkled in to our group as we're all together. Trying to get organized, Hollywood's like, all right, let's rotate through. Can't let these guys get away. And I don't have a camera at the finish, but you can see they are quite a ways up the road. They have about 150, 200 meters on the group. They have not come around the second corner, but just about. Chris Doing goes. He realizes this move is probably going to stick. And if he doesn't go now, it's going to be gone. So he hammers it. And I try to bridge up to him to not let him go. I believe this is Ed. Yep, this is Ed, kind of in no man's land. So a few solo attempts to bridge up to these guys. And I can't stay on Chris. Chris hit it. And at this point I'm thinking he may very well bridge up to those guys. And I'm going to do what I can here to hopefully bridge up to Chris. without putting myself too far into the red. Although I think I've kind of backed off here. Yeah, 100, 200 watts. I'm going to let somebody else go by. So at this point, we still have 3 riders up the road, Chad, Laszlo, and Chad. It looks like we are about to catch Chris. Chris took his foot off the pedal. There he is, was not able to do it. And another attempt to try to bridge up to this group of 3. And there is Chad Macy. So he was able to hang with Chad and Laszlo for a couple of laps, but got spit out the back. So now we're looking at a 2-man break. My teammate Laszlo Alberti and Chad Wisegram, as Chad Macy is right there and back with us, probably trying to catch his breath. Holding Chad Wisegram's wheel this year is a feat. I'm not sure I could have done it either. So the race is approaching the halfway point. And again, Laszlo and Chad are up the road, and I'm guessing right now they've probably got about 25 or 30 seconds on the field. So if another team wants to get in that break, whether it's Training Peaks or Hollywood or Loon State, they better go now. Matt and I are not going to do any work, as we're not going to try to pull our own teammates back. And this is starting to feel a little bit like deja vu from the last 2 years. As 2 years ago, Laszlo was in a break with Dan Casper, and last year Laszlo was in a break with donkey label rider Bart Holleran, and actually at the time he was with Vision and donkey label rider Jason Schneider. So feeling like a little deja vu here. I think if I work on anything in the off season, it's going to be my maintained power, my threshold power, so that I can stick some of these brakes and still have some gas to sprint at the end. I have sprinted for 3rd, 4th, 5th too often because I've missed the break. Brad Mills racing only for the 2nd or 3rd time this year. I'm not sure what's happening with his Garmin, as he may be trying to do some Morse code from the reflecting sun. I'm not sure. Let's hope that happened after the race began. I'm not sure. Andy Cruz to my right. Again, Ed and Freewheel Rider right in front of me. As yes, we are now about the halfway point. A few more flurry of attacks to try to bridge up to Laszlo and Chad here, crossing the start-finish line. 50-plus rider Mark Halverson and Charlie Townsend in my rear as we are pushing. I believe that is Derek Verta up at the front, trying to bridge. My teammate Ben Schinke up in the top 3 or 4 riders doing about the same thing I am. And still with about 14 laps to go, I'm feeling pretty confident that Laszlo and Chad are going to stay away. They are not unknown entities, both very, very strong riders in their own right. If they're working together, I would say they're gone. So the positive thing is, again, Jad does not live in Minnesota. So at the very least, I'm sprinting for third in this race and then second for the state crit. Not really the way you want to get second in the state crit, but at this point I'm going to try to cover riders if they try to bridge, but yet save as much energy for the final sprint as I can. As Laszlo and I could go 1-2 in the state crit. I think we average about close to 27 miles an hour for this race, so, you know, not the fastest crit I've ever done, but for a 6-corner crit, it's a little more technical. That's not a bad pace. So we're over 11 miles in, almost 26 minutes we've been racing in this 50-minute crit, so we're a little over halfway. Jason Engel came into town for this weekend. He is the overall promoter for the Midwest Flyover Series, which just wrapped up a couple weeks ago down in Iowa, Clear Lake. Derek Howes from Loon State in my rear. There's definitely been an easing back. You know, as the break first got away, a number of guys tried to bridge up, failed attempts, and now no team or no individual really wants to take responsibility of trying to bring this back, realizing that it's a tall order. Dominic gets his nose out front, and then all of a sudden there must have been some communication in the back, because we get swarmed by just about every 50-plus rider and a lot of the 35-plus riders. So go from being top 10 to back third here in the span of the finishing stretch. So there must have been a conversation in the back that says, all right, it's now or never. Let's organize, let's rotate up at the front and try to bring these two guys back. Whether it's going to play out that way or not, we will see. But I will let them try to do that as I save as much energy for the end as I can. Or if we do catch them, again, it could be a good opportunity for a counter attack. Not necessarily where you want to be in a crit, especially one with 6 turns and a chicane. You'd rather be sitting about top 10, top 12, as you get much less of the slingshot effect. Still not really braking here, but when you're this far back, you're accelerating at times you don't necessarily want to accelerate, and slowing down at times that are a little earlier than you want to slow down. So I don't want to hang back here too long. I'll let this group do what they want to do up front, but you can see we are strung out. This is not the time you want to move up. Typically you want to move up when the group bunches up and the impetus goes down up front, so you're not expending too much energy. As you can see, even after one lap, there's kind of a grouping going on up here, and even a coasting over the start-finish line. Brad Westman there in my rear. And whatever organization was happening up front has kind of died off. It only took one lap. And again, I'm thinking about, all right, let's move up. I realize there's still over 10 laps left, so positioning isn't as critical, but again, you get kind of the slingshot action moving on around back here. So biding my time, trying to figure out exactly when I want to move up a few places. Love this little chicane here on the backside, going into turn 3 and 4. Between 4 and 5 here, the section of the road is probably the worst. There's a little loose stuff over here on the right-hand side, and a manhole cover. You try to go either on the inside or outside on turn 5. And this final turn, turn 6, isn't bad. So, yeah, coming around turn 6, the last lap, we were completely strung out. Now things have bunched up. Andy Cruz from Training Peaks gets up ahead of me, starts thinking about maybe making a move. The second of the 2 preems, I believe, I wasn't really paying attention to the preems, but I believe the preem is going to the field rather than the 2 breakaway riders. It's probably the widest I take turn 1, because we're about 4 or 5 wide. And that's about the time I realized I don't want to be back here. I want to be up a few riders. No, it's not here that I do it. And yes, I've never won this race. And like I said, the last couple of years it's come down to this. I think the first year I raced it, I was a Cat 3, and a new teammate took off and won it in a break. And then I've done it as a Masters, as a 1-2. I've doubled up. Today I just plan on doing the Masters race. The 1-2 race is later on in the day. And had it been April or May or June even, my fitness was still there, doubling up would be an option, but it's always a lot more fun to end the crit season here on a high note, rather than having a good morning race and then getting spit out the back in about 10 or 12 laps of the Pro 1-2 race. Not sure that would happen, but 2 races at this intensity in one day is quite a ask. And this is usually about the end of my season. Having the racing and training mindset since January, by July I'm pretty much done. I might jump into a race here or there, but for the most part I kind of planned on this being about it. Alright, here I try to go around some riders, move up about 9 or 10 riders. Get on Chad Macy's wheel. Scott Halverson with my matching bike. And yeah, guys that race their wheels off, whether it's track and road, mountain and road, doing a full road season into cross, I give you all the credit. Again, my mental capacity for training and racing is about 6 months. By the end of July or August, I'm ready for a whole bunch of coffee rides, some single track, and turning the competitive juices down. But we're still racing now. Again, lap 20 of 29. Keeping an eye on Matt. And I want to say that Chad and Laszlo have about 40, 45 seconds on the field at this point. We're not in jeopardy of getting lapped by any means, but I would say at this point they are gone. And I want to cover attacks here, cover guys bridging up, but you can't cover absolutely everything. And I know for a while Chris Doing and Andy Cruz had about 15 or 20 seconds on the field. And for whatever reason, whether they just weren't working together all that well, or they realized they were not going to catch Chad or Laszlo, or something happened, we end up catching them. So I believe, and again I apologize for not having a... I get into the back of Derek Verda's derailleur slightly, as you heard that ripple mark. Ripple sound of my spokes in his derailleur cable. So yeah, I believe Chris and Andy are trying to bridge up. They're somewhere 5 or 10 or 15 seconds in front of us. Kind of just see them through that gap of riders. So they are not out of sight, out of mind by any means. But I am slightly nervous that they could be gone. So then we'd be sprinting for a fifth versus sprinting for third. "35 minutes in, we've been racing for 15 and a half miles. My heart rate's sitting at about 160, 162. Probably the thing I've noticed the most over the last 5 or 8 years of racing is the older I get, the lower my heart rate gets. A heart rate of about 180 is my max. The highest I've ever seen on my Garmin has been about 182. So this is a pretty maintainable and comfortable heart rate, at least at my current level of fitness. I believe this is a lapped rider right here, as again we're getting to that point in the race where the officials said they're not going to pull a lapped rider, so we're going to come up to a few lapped riders. But if you're racing with the Masters, by now you kind of realize how to get lapped and doing it in a way and in an area that's not going to cause too much disruption in the field. And since I barely noticed us lapping riders, that was indeed happening. And I believe Chris Doing is still up the road. Matt puts in some power. Again, I want to make sure to keep my eye on Matt with about 6 laps to go. And at this point, I'm sure most guys are thinking, all right, there's still a podium position left here for 35 plus riders. The 50 plus riders are racing for the win. So speaking of, we got Mark Helverson and Joe Hamlin, 2 50 plus riders, and then Charlie Townsend over there that are leading this group. And they really don't care if Laszlo and Chad are up the road, because Laszlo and Chad are both in the 35 plus category, and it's not going to have an impact on their 50 plus standings, which again always makes it a little bit weird tactically, but based on the size of these fields and the time allotted for the day, that's kind of how it has to shake out. At 20 miles an hour, we have slowed significantly. So allowing that 2-man break to get even further up the road. And just when I say we slow, then there's another attack. And we get it up to 32, 33 miles an hour, coming across the start finish. I'm still keeping an eye on Matt Myers. Chad Macy spends as quite a bit of the last few laps of this race on my wheel. I'm not sure if that rider had a flat tire or some sort of mechanical. Here we've got a few riders that are attempting attempted to get up to Chad and Laszlo, but nothing's really worked so far. Chad racing his beautiful S-Works bike. Wonderful bike. I'm not sure that I'd race that bike in a crit, given the high likelihood that you can get involved in some sort of crash, but it is a gorgeous bike and matches his donkey label kit exquisitely. All right, we've got Hollywood, and I believe, is that Derek Verda? And then Dominic Howes. Still trying to catch the breakaway of two riders. Dave Gray behind me, a 50-plus rider. Jay comes off the front, has done his work. He's telling everybody, rotate through, work together. I'm still sitting on Dominic. And yes, we have caught Chris. So Chris was in a break with Andy for a while. It looked like Andy fell off, and then Chris was out in no man's land on his own for a good 4 or 5 laps. And we have just caught him. So the situation again is now just 2 riders up the road, Chad and Laszlo, and the rest of us are all together with about 4 laps to go. I'm really figuring at this point this is the way it's going to finish. Could be the last time I get to sprint this season, so I'm going to have the most fun I possibly can. And I love this pace, keeping things nice and hot, nice and safe. Trying to avoid the swarm. And I'm not sure if this is Derek Vern up there trying to set something up for Andy or just keep things safe, but he's the one drilling it up front right now, I believe. Yes. And now Dominic is going to do what he can to try to bring things back. Talking to him after the race, he's like, yeah, I knew this was kind of futile, but you have to do something. So he's hitting the start-finish line at 30 miles an hour. You know, I'm putting out over 400 watts on his wheel, so that means he's putting out even more. He's bouncing quite a bit. I want to look into a bike fit there, possibly. All right, this is crunch time here. Last 3 laps to go. We all realize we are going to be sprinting for that final podium position in this race. Peter Maxwell comes over the top. A little too late, but trying to organize things and not let Laszlo win. Not realizing that Dominic has just been putting out a massive amount of watts here for half a lap. It's kind of a funny back and forth, actually. It's like, come on, come on. Dominic says, I'm trying, man, I'm trying. I love this. Dominic says, those are not the 2 riders we want out front who have teammates in the break. So Peter asking Myers if he's going to work to bring this back. I'm not sure quite what that means, but Matt is just riding angry, I think, at this point, and puts out the watts and rides Peter right off his wheel. I poke my head around and realize there's a gap there, and I think at this point Matt just wants to ride to third himself. I'm not going to let that happen. So, push the watts, get back up to Matt. 2 laps to go. But Matt has managed to string this thing out from corner to corner just about. And I'm curious at this point. Like I said, I think Matt's just riding angry because strategically, if he did want to go for third, this would not be the best strategy. But I love it. Again, we're cruising along here, just under 30 miles an hour, keeping things very safe, strung out, not allowing for the swarming action that can oftentimes happen at the end of the race, and it's fantastic. I keep waiting for him to pull off with such a short time left in the race, but he doesn't. He takes us way over to the left-hand curb as the wind is coming from our right. That means that he's pushing the pace, but we really can't draft as well off him based on the crosswind. So we are way to the left. All right, 2 laps to go. Here, position really does count. My main goal at this point is to not drop any farther back than about 4 or 5 riders. So try not to bury myself, but not get swarmed in the process. Joe Hamlin comes over the top of me. Joe Hamlin is 50 plus, but I know that he can sprint, so I'm fine with him being there. All right, 1.5 laps to go. Again, I know we're sprinting for third. The win is up the road. Sprinting for second in the State Crit Masters Championship, but again, this is the best part of every crit. My son asked me, what's your favorite part of the race? This is it. The last 2 laps. Hands down. Very strategic. Very fast. I think this is probably why most guys get into racing like this. If this doesn't make you feel like you're 14 years old, nothing does. Being able to be 40 years old and whip around these turns, get your competitive juices flowing, a hint of danger in there. And again, Matt is still out front. Pushes us way over to the left. We're in some rough pavement right here, because he knows which direction the wind's going and he doesn't want us to draft off him. However, we come across the start-finish line and he just about takes this woman out who's on the course. Watch this. This could have been bad. No! Hey. Don't get too close now. So here we go. It's a bell lap. It's the final lap. Again, my main objective again is to stay top 2, 3, 4 riders. I have lost the group sprint because I have gone too late and run out of road. I have lost the group sprint because I didn't get enough separation when I went. So my goal here is when I go, I'm going to go early and I'm going to hit it hard so that nobody is on my wheel, and then hope I can maintain it. Brian Koneman goes over the top of me. And again, at this point, I'm planning to hit it right before turn 6 and see if I can maintain it. But I want to get some separation between me and the field. So again, my goal is set. I'm sitting 4th, 5th wheel on Matt Meyer's wheel. Nobody else is coming around because we're going hot enough. Joe Hamlin's thinking about it. Is he going to get around us? Well, he creeps up. We're kind of all over the place. All right. I'm kind of shifting, I believe. And I want to hit it right here. Look at the watts. Bam. Come across the left side of him, and I've got my separation. Now I just need to maintain. So it wasn't the win. Maybe next year I'll be sprinting for the win. But it was 3rd overall and good enough for 2nd in the state. Very, very, very fun morning. Laszlo gets 2nd So congratulations to Chad on the win. Congratulations to Laszlo on his second state crit championship. And congratulations to everybody else who made this race, again, a very, very, very fun race. Looking forward already to next year. Thanks again, Jason Laherty and all the volunteers.